Hello. Okay, it looks like it's a live.
Hello, everybody. I'm Louise Winchester, the Spiritual Business Mentor and founder of Sacred Space. And this is Helen Dunn, the Salon Mentor. Helen, could you just check for me that we're definitely live?
Yes, we are live now.
Great. Hi, everybody. Sorry we took so long. I've had some technical difficulties here trying to set up Sacred Space to be able to go live and actually include Helen on the call remotely. Today, we are going to be talking about 0 point and what that actually means and how to transcend slave codes. Now, I can't actually see myself at the moment. I'm just going to see if I can pull up the right screen. There we go. Great. And now I can see Helen. And Helen, I can't actually bring in the chat right now. So if you could let me know when somebody's actually leaving a comment, that would be great.
We have got Carol Chaw, Kim T. Hello.
Hello. Okay, sorry, we were a bit late. We had some technical issues. Okay, so let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about 0 points. So in the New Age community, the term ascension is quite well known for basically having to go down to come up in frequency all the time. So we're always working on ourselves in order to sort of free ourselves up to the next level and allow more light into the quantum field. But I've just been starting to get a different level of awareness around this that I wanted to share with people. And Helen and I have had a conversation about it. And somebody else might say, oh yeah, of course, like I know what that is, and I already understand that wisdom, but it's actually a sort of new perception for me, and I thought I'd share it. So with ascension, we have inside of ourselves, we have a template, which is the astrological template, and we have obviously what's happening in the cosmos. So as above, so below. So whatever's going on up there is impacting your field down here. Now, I've always explained that we are moving between a sort of pendulum swing, and we're trying to center ourselves between extremes of positive energy and extremes of negative energy, and trying to move our energy field into 0 point. And the awareness that I've come to around this, so 0 is a circle, right? So we're actually trying to neutralize our field through time, not just for this life, but all the lives that we've ever had as well, which is up in our souls, in our spirit's records. And I've always thought of it as a sort of pendulum swing. And I've always said to people about going down, like into themselves, in order to clear out what needs to be cleared out to bring yourself up to the next energy. And over the last, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 years, what I've found is I go through these cycles of intense energy to clear and purify. And it doesn't matter how much work you've done on yourself. It seems like the higher you fly, the further down you've got to go to move to the next level. So it's almost like it's doing that in the energy. So it's a bit like climate change, where extremes of polarity are being sort of integrated in your energy field. It's almost like, how much can a human actually endure before they break in order to take you up to the next level? Does that make sense to you, Helen?
It does, but it does. And I think if you're especially early in the journey, not that you are, because you're very, very evolved, but very early in the journey, you do have that oscillating thing going on in your field. I think for you, you've had a very different journey as well to to what mine is and to what a lot of other people have had as well. So your polarities are very, very extreme as well.
And they're not extreme because I go into the ultra positive. So they've been extreme probably because of the planetary grid clearing contract that I actually have. But the awareness that I've been coming to is that it's almost like this 0 point, as I call it, of coming into neutrality. It's actually like, it's a complete cycle where I've always said that everything in the universe is spherical. When you work with spirit or spirit time, it's spherical, looking down on this dimension, almost like through a fisheye lens into a linear plane. And then from that, when you ascension is actually spherical as well. And the way that I've been looking at it in the last couple of weeks is like, if you can imagine a clock going all the way around where this is the positive rotation, but in the opposite polarity is the negative rotation. And so the 0 point is to transcend both the positive transition and the negative transition that are running concurrently in these cycles. And these cycles are cycles of time connected to the cosmos. So I don't know, it's just given me a slightly different understanding of ascension, from being a swing backwards and forwards to it not being a swing backwards and forwards each month, each month or each period. It's actually a swing within a cycle, a circle, and the energy is coming back through at the same time. So the positive and negative polarities are running concurrently.
Yeah. Even like I liken it to a spiral too, as well, in a way. But that's my experience. But I think all of us that are really connected to our soul path are getting a lot of realizations at the moment about what it is we need to be doing to keep that path open and evolving. So even though you said at the start that this might not be new news to people, it is very new news because it's another layer of that information that's coming through.
Well, the other way I was looking at it is this is the way that Spirit was showing me it. If you've got these activation sequences that have been coming through for people where they've been saying, I keep seeing 1111, 1111, 1111. It's a 1 and a 1, but it's like a parallel and a parallel. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's all connected. So it's, if you do an equation of 0 with +1 and -1 being a positive number and a negative of the same number, it equals 0 again.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like a cycle of energy that we're actually learning how to hold ourselves in the 0 point, which I've always said, but I think it's about holding ourselves literally in that singularity. It's like at the moment, whenever these are some new awarenesses that I've been coming to. I feel like a veil has been lifted off during COVID. And I feel that it's almost like I was living another life and now I'm awake. It's like another level of awakening that's actually occurred as a result of COVID. And in that, I feel like on some level I was living an illusion as well. And now I've come back to myself to be able to live more balanced and more harmonious, and maybe, whatever's got to go has got to go, and whatever's got to stay is going to stay. But it's like I think COVID has given us an opportunity to find ourselves within the lives that we already had and come back to more of who we truly are and how it's like we've actually, I feel like I've regained some of my earthly life where I wasn't interested in the TikTok stuff, but I've found new skills and things that I've been interested in doing where I feel like that gives me joy more than like other things that used to give me joy. So I think we're all like neutralizing what's not good for ourselves and getting shot of what isn't working for our energy bit by bit. And that's what I think is happening.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's just a new level of awareness in just how you describe what's actually happening with ascension. Instead of it being a swing, it's a full rotation. And at the same time, there's a negative rotation running through.
Yeah. And, it's actually really good for us to have that new energy again, because when you first open up to your soul journey, it's like, it's new and it's exciting, and then you follow that path and you follow that path. So we need that excitement again and that newness and that new,
That's a really good point, because it's also connected to this that I'm talking about. So in the Native American cultures, and all cultures, they talk about like the wheel of life, okay, which is a circle. So these are our 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And there is like a time to plant ideas, which is the spring, and that's when the new energy comes in. So we in the southern hemisphere have just moved in through the spring equinox into sort of being let out so that we can come out again. And so we've got like revived energy coming through. So there's new ideas, new opportunities, and the energy will start percolating, circulating around that. Then we move into summer, where we get to enjoy things more, and then we move into autumn, where we're getting ready for the barren phase. It's the harvest period, really, the autumn. And then we go back into the cave in the winter, and then we percolate what we need to get rid of, and then we come back out again. And so that's a natural cycle in the southern hemisphere. But if you imagine, as a planet, we also have the northern hemisphere, where the northern hemisphere is going to be almost running in reverse. It's funny, because when I first actually came out to Australia and got got my first hangover, I always used to say it's because the water goes down the wrong way, because it goes down the plug hole in the opposite direction. So anyway, as above, so below. It's like positive and negative is running at all times. And we just have to keep, as best as we can, working on centering ourselves within our own heart and trying to raise our frequency up above the slave codes that we're going to be talking about next. So is there anybody on the call that wanted to ask some questions about that sort of awareness or information that was coming through this week?
There's Kim.
Hi, Kim.
She's just said hello. And then Tom, but Tom just said my volume. I've just played with my volume, so I don't know if it's any better now.
Okay, I can hear you fine here, but it's quite quiet. Okay, so we were going to talk about slave codes. Now, slave codes are forms of entrapment within the consciousness and within the physical vehicle. They've been accumulated through lifetimes. They have been installed through mind control and agenda. It's like every single position that we can take mentally is some form of judgment.
programming.
It's all programming. So we are the, we are the sum total of what we've been programmed with at any point during our lives. And with slave codes is a case of understanding and identifying what could be imprisoning your consciousness or limiting your consciousness or limiting your ability to function within society, and spending time sitting in the energy of that and trying to transcend it. So on this call, we're really just going to talk about some of these slave codes. And I can tell you now that there isn't a single person that wouldn't have had or experienced at some point in their life like moments of consciousness where these slave codes have actually come up, because we can all relate to everything I'm about to say. And there's going to be a lot more of these, so we might actually talk about a few more probably next week. So these are some of the slave codes that we're going to be talking about. So before I do, there was one other thing I was going to talk about, and it's my own personal journey with sacred space and the system, or the banking system as it stands. And I believe at this point in time, if there's any area of your life that needs challenging, it is time for you to go up against the system and actually speak your truth and almost wake them up to where they are and how they've been operating, and hold them to account. It's a little bit like, if that's coming into your reality, we've been saying this in the last few weeks, if you've got something in your contract that means that you have to make a stand, then make the stand.
Yeah. Stand.
Okay. So it's the energy is calling for courage from us as individuals. It's calling for unity, where we're here to help one another to actually get through what we're getting through. And then on the other side of that will be the new earth energy. And we'll talk about politics and what's going on in America and whatnot, and the Northern Hemisphere after we've talked about these. So these points, the points that we're going to talk about is fighting, judging, ego, inner critic, outer ego, tall poppy syndrome, wanting to be the best, making everyone happy, drive, value equals accountability, delusionment, hedonism, guilt, spells, entrapment, and the high vibe club. So let's talk with the first one, which is an obvious no-brainer, but fighting as an energy. So in our physical body, when somebody pushes a button, it's like there's a hole in your energy field, okay? And somehow what is in your external reality has pushed a target button in your field where your body has gone into fight or flight. If you are in a moment where your body's gone into fight or flight, bringing your awareness back to yourself and going, there are consequences to my actions in this moment. I need to actually pull back, and I need to step out the side door, and I need to not be fighting. Because when you fight, whether it's an argument that you're going to have or whatever, it's a little bit difficult when somebody actually comes into your space and shadow projects. But even when a person is shadow projecting, you have to understand that a person who is projecting has something that's unconscious or some form of suffering in their energy field that they don't have the ability to process right in this moment. So love and compassion is where you need to position your energy to. And I said in one of my recent posts, I said, not all angry people are fuckwits. Sometimes you're just having a bad day, okay? And maybe there's something that you're doing in your reality that has triggered them because they want to be in your reality and they're not in your reality. So they're pissed off about being in a different reality, right? So envy or jealousy is the program that's running in that person. Now, if you're neutral to it and you just give love and compassion, that's great, because that means that there isn't a hole in your etheric field. You're all right. But if it gets a lock on and you get triggered, and it doesn't matter how good you are at this stuff, we all get moments where we get triggered and we go into fight because we feel that we need to defend, or we need to sort the situation out. And if you just stop in that moment and pull yourself back from literally going into the fight and saying, hang on a minute, that's got a lock onto my energy. I need to go away and I need to process that and sort out why that's got a lock on, because it's something in your field that you need to resolve. And as I said, easier said than done, but just that's one of the first slave codes, that if you don't work on something that somebody triggers inside of you, you're not transcending it.
No.
Just gonna have a sip of water. Do you have anything to add around fighting?
Well, it's just you know, they're gifts, really. They are, you know, any sort of reaction we have is a gift to us. And just being aware of that, so that we can transcend it, we can alchemize it, and heal.
That's a really good point.
Mm.
It's hard to do though. When somebody shadow projects.
Yeah, but like the more you do, the more work you do on yourself. Like, I mean, the
less you have it playing out in your reality.
Even today, like, I mean, I know my I've got to get out of the sandpit on social media, but I can't help myself. It's just a little bit of fun I have where I just jump in and just put my thing in. I don't criticize anybody. I just say this is what my opinion is. And I'll always get someone called me a moron today.
Oh, God.
Whereas normally I just bite back, but I just, completely, and I've thought, I have no feeling about that. So I'm
this is what my opinion is.
Fine with it. So I really feel like, gee, I don't even have an urge to actually say anything back to this person or anything. So I don't know, I feel pretty healed about that at the moment. We'll see how it is tomorrow. But,
excellent.
Anyway. So
just seeing if I could share whilst I was talking.
But yeah, so social media can be a real a tool for that sort of thing, if used strategically like that.
Okay, so moving on to judging. Okay, so if you stand a load of people in a room and sit a person in the middle of it talking about a specific story, each person in that room is going to have a different lens or viewpoint around that story. And it's incredibly natural for us to have a judgment or a decision based on that evaluation of what the story is. Again, if you don't have love and compassion for the person's story, and you are either, let's just say, if you're triggered in a heated energy, like a fire-like energy, then that again is something that would be a slave code embedded in your energy field that you actually have to transcend and neutralize. If you're in the energy of warmth and not fire, like if you feel fire coming off in your energy field, then you are definitely in the judgment coding. And if you go track back, because Spirit's just saying to me, quite often this comes from father or mother programming in your timelines. So we usually have like absorbed most of our judgment programming from our parents directly, because what their mindset, and don't forget you've inherited it genetically, what their mindset is is usually where it's like the main frame for how your mindset is wired. So
and early, like, and you know, pre-7, pretty much.
yeah, brothers and sisters can also cause quite considerable damage around judgment, because if there is part of the cultural judgment around what they perceive, because they've been programmed for you to be a specific way, because that's the way they're living their lives, and if you aren't conforming to how they're living their lives because their parents programmed them, and they're towing the line and conforming with that, and you're the black sheep of the family because you don't actually do things their way, right? That's another way that judgment can be like hardwired. It's almost like you're hardwired to receive judgment even from your family unit. So again, it's another slave code that you have to actually pull apart on so many levels. It can take you years of work to actually unbind yourself from giving a shit about what your family thinks, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, and but they're usually the deepest and the most the things that you.
The woundings are huge.
And they're the things you need to really deal with first before you can deal with all the other stuff. Because
absolutely, but the woundings can be really bad for people to transcend.
Yeah, or just to even acknowledge that they're there.
Yeah, so what we're doing by trying to talk about this is to identify to you some of the stuff that we've transcended during our lives, which are actually classified as slave codes, because it's coding. It's like you're trying to free yourself up to be a free being with freedom of self and freedom of speech without having like these things playing out in your reality. That's why we're talking about it. Okay, so if anybody's got any questions, let us know.
I actually, while they're coming through, I actually heard in a course that I did around this, that if our programming is already embedded in us by the age of 7, then we're actually being trained by other 7-year-olds, because our parents' programming was there by their age of 7, and so on and so on. So it's so deep seated in our being.
Yeah, totally. And it covers, Spirit's saying to me, what it does is it covers over the gifts. It's almost like you don't know who you are on a deeper level until you have lifted some of this stuff off, so that you can be your authentic self. The next one we're going to talk about is well, this is on 2 levels. We're going to talk about ego. So the ego is the first one we're going to talk about is the inner critic. Okay, so there's different levels to what the inner critic is. I think the easiest one to start with is really negative words being spoken to your consciousness. So this moves into sometimes the area of either astral doorways open in your consciousness to schizophrenia, which we always say in this realm of work that we've done in sacred space, that quite often in the consciousness you've got fragmentation that's actually occurred on a dimensional level, and it's like it leaves all these doorways open for energy to be able to speak to the consciousness and manipulate the consciousness. So that's kind of the highest level of inner critic, where somebody is actually hearing a voice that's telling them to do something that is usually not of the light, and it's negative in its origin. And then there is other levels or dimensions of stuff that come in underneath that. So if your inner consciousness is telling you, like, even your thoughts are thinking like self-sabotaging, self-harming, like almost like beating yourself up, whether it be, you look in the mirror and you're criticizing yourself, or you're, unhappy with what you're looking at, and you don't take action to either, make yourself happier or more whole, or go on a diet, or whatever it is. If you're actually thinking negative projections when you're looking in the mirror and such like, then this is your inner critic that you need to lock on to something that's a negative thought and actually write that down and then follow it and track it back, because again, it is some form of slave code or coding in your system that you need to transcend and evolve beyond. Have you got any other examples of inner critic that you would like to speak of?
Well, it's the, I don't look good in this or anything. You look in the mirror and, gosh, I hate the way I look, or I hate, look at my skin, or look at anything like that is not your true self talking to yourself. And the most important conversations that you're having are the conversations that you have with yourself when you're by yourself. So they're the things that we should be conscious of. What are we saying to ourselves? Because they, that's what's determining what's going on internally, and then what we're seeing externally as well. And
it's on many different levels. Sometimes it's your external reality, like making you feel down because it's not how you want it to be, and then that is compounding how you feel inside, where you feel like something's broken. Why is it like this? But sometimes we just got to go, okay, it's like this because everything's gone to shit. It's not necessarily all about you not being in alignment, because if you work on yourself at a quantum level, you're in alignment because you're working on yourself. So
well, you tend to be kinder to yourself, I think, when you are working on a quantum level. You are aware of that self-talk, so you are a little bit, but that can be so sabotaging when you're not aware of it. And it takes something like five. A negative thought is 5 times stronger or more powerful than a positive thought. So you really need to kind of like get on top of that negative thought and basically bombard it with strong positive affirmations about yourself, and not someone else's affirmation, your affirmation.
Yes, or doing meditation on that specific topic, because there's a lot of meditations out there that are for transcending specific issues or running energies in order to like lift your frequency around that particular thing. And one of the biggest ones is always manifestation, but there's so many different meditations around manifesting, but like sometimes you don't even know what you want to manifest. You just actually trying to manifest what you've got as an existence and keep this existence going. So it can be a bit of a minefield, but just try to either work with a practitioner or work on yourself, or spend time in meditation, or as you just suggested, affirmations. Like I think Thomas has just brought out an affirmation CD download, which you can get. I don't know if it's live yet. Maybe you can let us know, Thomas. And we'll
asked a question too of how do you overcome these negative programs? What do you do to change them?
Okay, so there's a few different ways. So we just said meditation, finding meditation that's specific to the issue. And then working with the energy of what's been templated for you to transcend. So quite often it's like thinking into that issue and allowing spirit to release the energy with like color, angels, like crystal frequencies, whatever is encoded in the alchemy of the meditation. Separate to that is working with somebody who, you know, I have 2 quantum kinesiologists that people can connect with by contacting me when things are a bit more difficult to actually transcend. And then another example is affirmations, or correcting affirmations of, you know, or writing just even writing it down and being aware that that is a problem, and spending time sitting in the energy and taking yourself into your consciousness. So I'll just explain how you do that. So the first thing I would do is I'd target an issue. I'd shut my eyes. I'd make sure that, like, I'm completely alone. And then I would track down into my physical body, and I would ask spirit to shine the light on the specific issue that I have raised as a like sabotage program or slave code, whatever you want to call it, in my energy. Something that feels uncomfortable. I know I want to get rid of it. So you then scan and you ask to find the original location in your own physical being for where that's stored. So you start to feel like density will appear, and usually it's in the heart chakra or it's in the solar plexus, because those are areas where we it's either something that we haven't let go of, and it's a past wound that we're still holding in our power center, or it's in our heart chakra, or it's in our throat, where it's something to do with like either a wounding from the past, or it's about some shutting down in our ability to speak our truth. Rarely will you find like something stuck in your base chakra or your sacral chakra or your crown chakra. Most of the time it's going to be sitting in one of those 3, but like sometimes it's somewhere else. It's like if I said 90% of the stuff going on in your field is going to be sitting here. I can't jump high enough. You can't see me from you can't see the solar plexus. So you go down into the issue, and then you kind of ask yourself, when was that you connect with the energy of the density, you allow it to raise in intensity, you allow yourself to feel it. Sometimes if it's in the heart chakra, you're going to go into grief, and your heart chakra is going to start, like, if it's really impacting you, your heart chakra is going to start doing this, and you're going to start releasing that energy quite naturally. But when it's stuck in the throat and the solar plexus, it's much harder to just shift that energy. Then you would go back to asking when this first started playing out in your world, and 9 out of 10 times it's going to go back to either being at school or something to do with your family or parents or whatever. And then you're going to see like why this has been playing out as a loop. So it comes back around time and time again until you actually get to a point where you go, so that's what I was learning. And you can exchange the energy. So exchanging the energy is turning density to light, or negative emotion into a positive emotion. So if you were feeling a negative emotion, you've got to then try and either use love and think of, like I would say to people, this is a really easy one. Imagine yourself lying on the beach with nobody around, feeling the sunlight, knowing that the water's there and it's nearby, and feeling like all the elements, the air, everything around you, and just focusing on that, because the elements actually naturally balance the inner energetics or the inner energy inside of you, because you're made up of the elements. And separate to that, it's about like creating a new reality for that old reality. So sometimes we go back and we remember, like we turn that negative environment of if you had a choice in that moment, I choose not to have those parents. I choose totally different parents, or I put an example of a better parent in that time. And I just imagine what it would have been like to have had that parent rather than the parent I had. And that also will neutralize the energy, or changing up a sister, or changing up a friend, or whatever it is. So by you tracking back yourself, you can actually recreate time in that location. Separate to that, you use a quantum kinesiologist, because they are able to see the event as well as you being in the event, and isolate it and see if there's any interference around it, if it goes back into past lives, etc., etc. So that's my advice on transcending issues. Hi, Danielle. Hello, beautiful. Okay. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, and it works. What you were just saying, it does work. And even just having a conversation with yourself and just giving yourself that love, because generally you would have said something, you would have taken on a belief at that time that that then continued like to loop around and play out. So yeah, it's changing the conversation, like what you said, exactly that. And
yeah, it's changing the inner event in your quantum field, because your mind is the doorway to the event, and you can recreate time.
Yeah.
And by mending the past, it allows us to, like, then it's almost like Control Alt Delete on the computer to change our future reality. So our external reality keeps oscillating, where we're recreating it and recreating it and recreating it over and over again. And if we don't become vigilant to these sabotage codes in our field, then we're not going to reach our full potential as human beings.
That's why it's called react, because we react to it every time.
Well, ultimately, we all want to live with less shit going on, don't we? Okay, so the next one is outer ego, and that being out of balance. Now, I'm going to give some examples of that. I just need another sip of water. Sorry, people.
While you're doing that, Thomas has just said, I Am Affirmations meditation will be out within a few days via YouTube, SoundCloud, and for download on his website.
Okay, Thomas, if you want to put a link, or remember to put a link in this comments section in a few days once you release it, that'd be great. Okay, so the outer critic, the outer ego. So a really good example of this, of outer ego, we all know it, is vanity. So it's one thing to feel good about yourself, or, you know, wear nice clothes, and that's absolutely okay. But when you are energetically feeding your ego off of, and I'm going to give you some examples, walking down the street and catching the attention of men on a building site, okay, for young girls, or, you know, like receive, and like there's an energy exchange when that actually occurs, that will feed the ego. Celebrities have, yes, they're in the public eye, but, you know, you don't, here we are rocking up in t-shirts, we have not got our external ego attached to what we look like when we're coming through your television set. Do you follow what I'm saying? So, you know, I might struggle to not wear any makeup whatsoever. I find that slightly horrifying, but like, we're not, how do I explain it? My ego is not attached to whether you like me or not. My ego is not attached to what I look like or what I'm showing up as on camera. Yeah. And sometimes we just want to present professionally. That's absolutely fine. But just catching, if you find that your ego is being fed by, your own ability to be sexually attractive, or help me out here,
So if you like, you want people to look at you or to notice you or that sort of thing. So, like,
very Kath and Kim, look at me. Okay, so this is another example. Men do it all the time. Men are doing it all the time down in Camden, where my partner's got a cottage. They have got bikes with massive engines and cars with massive engines. And I used to love driving really awesome cars and fast cars and stuff. But it's like every time somebody drives down that street, it's like bloody hell. It's another person that's like showing their ego off. That's the outer ego that we really, we don't need to present ourselves. So if you just spot that you're catching your, something that your ego is feeding off of a situation. And I think as you get older, you get less and less and less ego as time goes on, don't you?
Well, yeah, you're aware of it, I think. So, and yeah, you're aware that it is ego. I suppose if you see it in other people, that it's happening out there, you just have that awareness. I kind of tend to, you notice it. So you just.
Oh yeah, it's like red light.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one that we're going to talk about is tall poppy syndrome. So this isn't an area that I have any expertise in. Tall poppy syndrome is something that really kicked in as a word or a phrase when I first moved out to Australia 20 years ago. I think my first experience with it was quite a shocker. I was on a construction site as a woman, and I was talking about like the cooling towers that were on the roofs of the buildings, and I said, I can't really understand why. I was telling this guy, I can't really understand why you have cooling towers in this country, because there's a different kind of engineering. And like, to me, the negative was, and I said this at the time, that you have to treat the water in the cooling tower from Legionella and put loads of chemicals in it. And like, I was trying to understand the engineering, and he said, well, why don't you go back to your own country? And I thought, okay, that's the first example I had of tall poppy syndrome, where he took personal offense over me not understanding how things work in Australia and trying to cut me down to size because he felt inferior to my intelligence and what I was actually trying to talk to this person about in the first instance. So I wonder if anybody's got any other examples of tall poppy syndrome like that you want to talk about right now. Have you got let's hear it from an Australian.
I wonder, I don't know whether that's tall poppy syndrome or just feeling intimidated by your knowledge. Which is kind of a little bit the same, but I think the tall poppy syndrome that we have is somebody who kind of rises to the top of top of the ladder type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And either they're the king of the castle and everybody underneath them is less than they are. Or you have the other extreme where you won't let yourself achieve because you don't want to be the tall poppy. You don't want to stand out. So
okay, two paradoxes. So let's talk about the first one.
Yeah.
The first one, whenever I see somebody behaving as in the tall poppy syndrome, they are usually actually wealthy in Australia. That's when I've seen it actually occur.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're criticized for,
that's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and they're criticized for achieving. So that's the thing. So
no, they're the ones that are the critics.
Well,
I've actually witnessed. So you'd think it was the other way round, but it's actually not. And it's almost like, how do I explain it? There's a bit of a hierarchy that they feel that they can do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose that's where the ego kicks in, like what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it is, they're codings of not being able to graciously take take what is, we are here to actually achieve. We're here to embody our highest potential here and do that graciously and humbly. And so the tall poppy is on that scale is taking it on and letting the ego take over and be the big I am, which then in turn attracts the criticism from others going, oh, look at them, and driving around that nice car, and
who do they think they are?
Exactly. So it's that double-edged sword that we have a very strong attitude towards that slave code, where it doesn't allow people to get there, and it doesn't allow it goes both ways.
You also mentioned the opposite polarity of that is someone coming up, and is it like the glass ceiling, where they're hitting the glass ceiling because they don't want to reach up too far because of the tall poppy syndrome, or
they can
because they fear being cut down?
Fear of well, it's not really fear of failure. It's that fear of success and fear of not wanting to stand on their box and take their and they're normally the people that actually are 2IC, good at being 2IC instead of and they let.
I don't know. I had a lot of coding to push through myself on speaking publicly, because, as I've said so many times, God bless Asha and Joanne for actually helping me through all of my past life traumas on speaking my truth in metaphysics and spirituality, because my brain did not actually connect to my mouth when I first started doing all this kind of work, and I could not stand and speak to like 10 people in the room. I just couldn't do it. I had so much trauma in my cellular memory.
Yeah. So there's Alice Singleton here has said.
Alicia.
Sorry, Alicia. There's a lot of that happens in corporate, which it does.
Right.
Often had instances of this. Sorry.
In the boardroom, especially as a woman. Yeah. And someone that looks younger than they are. Oh Christ. Yeah. I didn't call it tall poppy syndrome when I was in construction. I just called it corporate psychopaths, because they don't care who they stand on to stay in a position of power. But Alicia's obviously referring to people within the marketing industry and product industry, because that's where she currently works. And they obviously don't like it. It's like that would be deep-seated jealousy over, you being attractive, and it's a mirror for them that I was used to find on a construction site that my field would reveal anybody out of integrity. Like it's like the truth would be revealed no matter what. And sometimes if you're a deeply spiritual person like Alicia is, just because you hold your light and your authenticity and you've got passion and you've got drive and you've got beauty, you know, it's going to trigger, it's going to push every button that's like dark in them.
Definitely.
And they're going to come to like chop you down to size.
Yeah, and they've also, you know, it blocks the creative, the creativity. It blocks the sharing and the learning and the forward motion of actually learning more, and, you know, letting go of what, you know, of what doesn't serve you anymore, and actually just moving forward with new ideas. So yeah, you know.
But what we're trying to talk about is like identifying it in the self. If you it's like we can't fix the people outside of ourselves unless we graciously bring it to their awareness. But sometimes you come up against such resistance just by I hear the words off with their head. Like, it's not worth a battle to show that person what it is that is in their shadow side that isn't unified. It's all about whether you're unified, where you can hold your light in that energy. So that's, as we pull it back, we're talking about the subject, but we're talking about actually not embodying these codes, and making sure that if we have a moment where we are embodying it, getting to the bottom of it and actually identifying where that's stored and why we are behaving in that way.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's just have a look at the next one. Wanting to be the best. We've all been there. There isn't a single person on this planet that at some point their ego hasn't suggested to them that they, you know, they could be the best at this, or like, it's almost like, you know, when we get sort of enticed into thinking that we're going to make money out of something, that's another one of those sort of slave codes, if you understand what I mean, because the opposite actually occurs from it.
Yeah.
So wanting to be the best.
It's perfectionism too, like.
Yeah, that, did I not put, oh yeah, I did a post that was so detailed on this perfectionism. Like, I listed every single like sabotage program, slave code that I could possibly think of as a human, and then lost the document because I clicked on the screen and the whole lot disappeared, and I thought, oh, fuck it. I'll just write a few, and I'm sure that will be enough for the live. So, you know, we all have, you know, we want to do the best that we can with whatever it is that we're applying ourselves to. But, you know, sometimes it's not about being best. It's about like just it being good enough.
Yeah. Well,
and settling for that.
Yeah. Or, you know, as long as it's the best that you've done without it being competitive, competition. Competition's not a bad thing because it gives you a benchmark of something that, you know, especially when you're learning something, to kind of go, okay, well, how good do I need to do this? But, you know, then it's kind of like, then your own self and your own self, gratification should start kicking in, where you're doing it then for your own personal, you know, truth, rather than out there to prove it to somebody else that you're better than them, or you're better than, you know. Yeah.
You said a key word just then, right at the beginning of when you started to speak, and it was like competition. I know, I was like, confidence? No, that's not it. Competition. So if your energy is competing with somebody else, or you're wanting to be better than they are, that is an issue. And you just got to identify like the first thing that's going to come up into your mind is school.
Yeah. And it's
because that's when you first had to go toe to toe with somebody else, or you were actually forced to compete with others.
Yeah.
And if you catch yourself like wanting to compete with someone else, then that's another one that I would go back into the memory of when did I first start like this behavior and trying to reroute it, because there is nobody to compete with. You are a natural attractor of what is resonant with you, or what you actually need. Like, we're supposed to be living our lives in every given moment absolutely perfectly, you know, no matter what shit show is going on around. You're always in a position where the universe is delegating to you exactly what you're learning, or you're transcending, or you're evolving, or you're growing through. So the earth is a school, and we're all learning. Doesn't matter whatever level you think that you've attained. The more you work with spirit, the more you realize how little you know in comparison to the higher perspective or the higher evolution. Like, you know, it would be very egotistical of us to suggest that we know everything, because we certainly don't. Okay, so
like Thomas just said, what do you mean I am the best? And I was just going to say, yes, we do. We know everything.
Oh, he's fantastic. He has so many amazing skills.
He is.
He's a legend. Okay, so the next one that we're going to be talking about is making everybody happy. I've never had that as a coding, like, or a slave code or an entrapment code. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm an Aries through and through. Basically, out of my way, I'm coming through. I really don't. I'm probably blessed with a star sign that doesn't mind or doesn't care really what other people think. Obviously, I actually, like, it's not, the word isn't care. Like, I have compassion for somebody if they take offense at something that I've said, but I'm not trying to position my energy in a place where I'm trying to make people happy. If you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My consciousness is not driven like that. Whereas some people really have this, especially a lot of women have this need to
please
be there for everyone, or be people please. I have been there for too many people probably in my life, to my own detriment, but I think it's a more glaringly obvious flaw, I would say, in self, when you come across someone that is they're I think it's come from like the mother archetype of their mother did everything for everybody, whether it be the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning and the whatever. It's almost like that cultural stuff has then been passed down, and then they're living their lives exactly how their mother taught them how they should be. So it comes down the mother line, I think.
Okay.
What would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's not often you come across a guy that is trying to make everyone happy, but
I have, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, just they're not happy unless everyone else is happy. That's the but you know, it's a it is a slave code, because it is the thing, you're not happy unless everybody else is happy. And so you're putting your own happiness.
You're not living your life.
Yeah.
You're living your life through
through
supporting everybody else around you.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where then you manifest, women like often manifest breast cancer and the like, because they've given all their energy out and not had enough energy coming back for themselves, because they're living their consciousness out through everybody that they're supporting.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also, you know, not being able to speak your truth. So the people pleaser who agrees with everybody, agrees with whatever everybody else is saying, the fence sitter who, you know, who doesn't want to rock the boat or say something a little bit controversial or be called a moron. Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, that sort of thing. It's you know, the person that's just not you know, not I was going to say game enough to actually have an opinion about anything, so that they just blend in. And it'll be interesting to see how we've seen with lockdown how people are now starting. There is a bit of a division because people are starting to think for themselves a little bit. So it'll be really interesting to see as we come out of this how you know, we had a lot of people pleasing going on before lockdown. A lot of people just blending into the crowd and hanging out with the crowd and being happy to be with the crowd. And they've been on their own now for a while and gotten to know themselves. It'd be interesting to see how they interact.
Oh, we've all got to know ourselves a ton load better. I was going to talk a little bit more about people pleasing.
Yeah.
And I think I think really the people pleasing thing is more about timidity, or being really timid and not having enough self-confidence and being very meek and small in your energy, and that being like, it's a restrictive, like introverted, like almost like collapsing restrictive energy in the field. And again, not thinking enough of yourself is probably where I'm trying to head with that. But it's obvious in people that have different conditions like Asperger's, being like, you know, can be quite introverted character, or find it difficult to interact with people. But I'm just suggesting it in the self. So if you feel like your confidence is low in yourself and you hate doing something, that's exactly what you have to push through and up level, because otherwise it'll come back around in some other format or formula. Yeah. And the universe will like take away all your money until you push up and move through all the barriers and restrictions, so that you can be more of yourself than you were before that. Yeah. So the universe is pushing us all to be more than we've ever been before at every given point. Definitely. I think.
And back to ego, is what's going to stop you from actually pushing the boundaries as well, because your ego doesn't like change. You know, it likes to sit in that comfortable spot. And
yeah, we don't like change. We do like to be comfortable. We do like to have a place to be who we are. I absolutely loved working from home. Absolutely loved it. It's almost like you couldn't force me back in here if you tried. But I've reached a point where I feel like I have to resolve what's actually going on with this space and what's going on with Sacred Space, and you know, move it forward in a new format, whether it's like the old is to be collapsed and the new formula of me is being born, or whether it's being transitioned over. I'm just allowing each day to be as it is and do what I can as I can. So being present with the moment is really important at the moment. more than ever before, because we're all challenged to transcend the eye of the storm. Okay, so the next one that we shall talk about, encoding to watch out for, would be drive. So about 3 weeks ago, I didn't have any of it, not scrap left in me. But intrinsically inside of you will be past life experience that makes you good at what you're passionate about. Okay, and it's exactly where you should align yourself with. Okay, so this is more about underdrive and not having enough. It's almost like it's the opposite of the word that we're looking for. So as a negative inside of yourself is not being driven enough, or being overtly driven, where it doesn't matter who you bulldoze through your way to get to where you want to be. So those corporate psychopaths that I was talking about earlier, they don't care who they step on in order to stay in a position of power. If you find that your energy somehow has been triggered to the point where you don't care who you crush in order to be that, you know, to get what you want, then you're completely out of integrity in your energy. Likewise, if you're sitting on your ass and you're not doing anything with your time here on planet Earth, and you're not serving the community, and you're not helping people, and you're just doing whatever it is that you do for yourself, then again, you're in the other polarity of not being in correct drive. So we you know, even when you're always going through periods of evolution. Every 7 years you will re-evolve to another level, because that's a natural cycle of time. You know, and things go through stages in order to come full circle on that. I think I've lost where I was right then.
You're ebb and your flow, and you were at you know, like,
I was talking about drive. Right. So is one of the codes to look out for is obviously losing your drive. You've got to try and get back on track. And when you are overtly driven and you don't care who you got to, you know, what the impact is of what you do, that again is another form of coding that needs to be worked on, because you got to come back into balance for who you truly are and what you want to do with your life and how you want to achieve in life and how you're going to serve.
Yeah, and that can be, it's also maybe a little bit of denial. It could be that you know, you're just stuck in a rut in a way, and then just I suppose don't know how to get out of it, or don't have that drive to pull yourself out of it and move into another sort of space to or another idea to move you into that, you know, on your path and be following your purpose.
Thomas has just written a funny post here about somebody that he replied to in an email about a recording. I was just reading it, and he said that it was such a poor recording. It sounded like she recorded it in the toilet, so he didn't hold back, and he said it in the email. Not a good move, Thomas. You should have just like sucked it up and said the recording's really bad quality. But I do like your sense of humor. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about, if you're still staying with us, is value equals accountability. I often raise this one. This is a lesson I learned from the universe a long time ago now. And it's about valuing the self enough to actually charge what you're worth. And then holding the line with it. because there is, you know, I stood around the other day and there was 3 of us, not naming any names, talking about some services that we can help people with. And when you added up our years of experience, it was like 129 years of experience going into serving that client, which is, it has to have value added to it. You know, you have spent a lot of time, energy, and money on educating yourself and serving people to the point where you actually are charging for your services, right? So I always say to people, you look at the low range of what people are doing, you look at the high range of what people are doing, and you position yourself bang in the middle, because that's really, it's not about valuing yourself to the point where it's so ridiculous that you aren't ever going to receive a client, or, you know, the universe is just going to classify you as unobtainable. But it's also about not valuing yourself down at like a level where you don't value your own self-worth on what you've done in order to actually achieve what you've become an expert in. So value equals accountability is can be a program where we don't value, you know, it's like we give and give and give and give and give.
Yeah.
Because we're light workers, we want to help everybody, but at some point you got to come back from that and say, actually, no, I do need to put a fee to this, and it needs to be reasonable, but it needs to not be ridiculously low so that I can actually put food on the table.
Yeah. And it's when you're an artist, I think it's even worse, because you make it, you know, because once you become good at it, or capable and competent at it, you start to make it look easy, and people just, it looks so easy that, you know, you just, you know, it's like baking a cake, or well, that's an art anyway. But yeah, it looks easy, and people think, oh gosh, I could do that myself. And then, you know,
go ahead and try it.
Yeah, but that's what I say. Anyone can cut hair, but not everyone can do a good job. But you know, it's that's the thing. I think it's when you've got a creative talent, it's even harder to kind of like, you know, to value yourself. Sorry, my dogs have just come in running amok.
Okay. Delusionment. This is an interesting one. Delusionment really is thinking that something's going to give you something that it's actually not.
I've got a good example. Our Victorian Premier at the moment. Our delusional Victorian Premier. Anyway, sorry, shouldn't bring politics into this.
Yeah, well, he's creating delusionment in every, you know, can you imagine the karma? And blissfully unaware that, you know, you think that you're going to get away with it in this lifetime. You're certainly not. Because this is the lifetime where everything's going to get revealed.
Yeah.
So anything that's been out of integrity is going to come out.
Yeah.
Is there any other things around delusionment? It's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, it's just it's really being so caught up in your own story, your own
agenda.
Yeah, your own it's, you know, a lot of people who are, or we see that delusionment in them, is because they are telling themselves, well, what we believe they're telling themselves an untruth, and they believe it, and they're playing it out.
I even feel like we literally, when COVID hit, and now where we are now, it really has lifted any form of delusionment out of your world. As in, if if you've been spending the time on the inner and doing your own inner work, it's like you're so much more than ever connected to yourself, that it feels like you were delusional before you even went in through COVID. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's almost like, for me, it feels like I was living a completely different life back then. And now I'm more whole by having some time out to spend with myself.
Definitely.
I think there isn't a single person that wouldn't have been changed or impacted by what's actually gone on.
No. But I think, you know, for us, we're constantly analysing our own thoughts, our own actions, our own impact on anything that we, you know, that we encounter, so that, you know, we're so that we're, you know, you're questioning, going, oh, how did that play out? Is that, you know, how did I be my best show up? How did I show up for that? Was I my best self, or how could I? But even that, I'm kind of thinking, sometimes I think, am I delusional just doing this? You know, it's kind of like, but, you know, we're not, because you're thinking that. The delusional people don't think like that at all. They're just.
I think delusionment is, like Spirit is saying to me, delusionment is really connected to manipulation. So having a means to an end, and in like putting out there something which is not of the light, or a false truth, in order to manipulate, is a form of delusionment. Do you follow what I'm saying? Or not facing up to what is reality. So we're all facing our reality right now, like, of, you know, just trying to get by, so that we, you know, don't have to, I don't know what the right words are for this, but because this is a bit of a scrambled eggs of a broadcast, but I do think delusionment is directly connected to manipulation. And if your energy is manipulating or manipulative in any way, you have to get to the bottom of why you are manipulating or manipulative, in order to get something out of someone or whatever.
Like
that's where I'm trying to get to with it.
Agenda based in a way. So you've got your own.
Most people are agenda based when they're going through a relationship.
Well, we all are, but it's kind of like you would hope that the agenda is for both parties to be happy. But when it's kind of solely, when
it's out of balance. One of the things I was going to discuss was the twin flame energy. So in the mainstream, I would say younger generation circuit, they seem to think that a twin flame is someone that they want to be with, right, or should be with. And there's misinformation around that, because a twin flame is an energy where you have uncontrollable, like, you're not in control of yourself. You are chasing an energy which is like, it's you're not supposed to be with it. It's like being with your brother or being with your sister, because at a higher self level, you come out of it's like meeting like on such a level that it's actually highly destructive, because you share the same oversoul. So your higher self goes up into a hub, and it's like, you know, you might share telepathic abilities, or you might share like literally exactly the same soul contract, where you're here to do the same work. And it's so amazing that you found this person that you're going to do the same work with. But actually, it's a really destructive relationship, because the intensity of what you feel through your body, or the intensity of, you know, the pull to this person, is out of balance. And that is a twin flame energy. It's like, it's not that you've, like, a soulmate is somebody that you've had a past life incarnation with and you've come back together. It's not like that. It's really destructive being in a twin flame relationship. And you know, there's so many hallmarks to what, you know, or red flags as to don't go there with it, because you've got this insatiable pull, but at the same time it's completely out of alignment. It's really destructive, and you can't think straight because you're just obsessed with this person. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So twin flame relationships you have to let go of, because they won't work out.
Yeah. I've got another question for you now that you've said that. Is
Yeah.
have you ever had an encounter with somebody that you've just kind of like it's happened to me about 3 times, where you've just had you've met somebody, you start talking and you're okay, and then all of a sudden just something snaps and you're like, there is no way either of you can actually connect, and it's just the actual
The door shuts.
Yeah, but it's like, and you just can't, it's just kind of like, I can distinctly remember speaking to this guy one night, two guys and a girl, but one guy, and we're chatting away, and next thing something just something was said, and then next thing bang, and then it just kind of like it was just a conversation, nothing, you know, like, but just something, and then just completely off page, and then
your volume just went right up.
Sorry,
you might want to turn it down a little bit.
My volume?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else is picking that up.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, you have a question around this. What was it like? I wasn't completely following it because your voice was getting louder and louder.
Sorry. I don't know.
It's all right.
Yeah, just like if you've ever met anybody and you're talking to them, and then all of a sudden just the energy in the conversation completely changes to just, you know, and it's almost like two magnets that just push away from each other, and you just cannot, no connection and no kind of.
I always just step back from that energy. It's because there'll be something it's either the mind of the individual you're speaking to has just literally shut the door on, it's like they can't even go there, or wherever the conversation was going, and it's like it's a literal closing down of the energy, or it's because of a trigger. So it's a trigger and a trigger.
Yeah.
I've definitely had it in here in Sacred Space, where I've had, you know, I've been having an open and frank conversation, and then the next minute, like, I've hit a wall in their energy field, and then they've gone into their ego, and then I will just, because their ego is presenting in a way that I don't want to engage in, I will shut my field down and I'll just like move away from it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter, because, you know, maybe the exchange was just the few moments of conversation just before it. You don't have to meet every single person for a reason, season, lifetime, you know, like it's just a case of there was a momentary exchange of conversation and the door's shut and off you go. You don't need to like continue on.
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't have to have an investment in another person's conscious evolution, right? So sometimes it's a discernment in that moment of, oh, okay, I've just seen them shut down. It's like somebody turned their light off and their soul stepped sideways, and you're not talking to the same person in the vehicle. Do you follow what I'm saying? I've also seen that happen to people, where it's almost like somebody will flick out, and it's because there's an interference connected to a trigger in their energy field. So we can have any number of emotions playing in our energy, and if that emotion is an emotion to a dimension that is in the field that's not unified, and there's some interference behind that could also be stepping into the vehicle or this person's spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, So let's just have a look what else we got going on. Hedonism. Oh, it's a massive one. So hedonism. For me, hedonism is around abuse of power to do with sex and drugs and, as they say, rock and roll. But it's more about overtly using your energy in a way that is not in integrity. And it's also about losing control over your own consciousness. So when people take drugs, they take drugs to get away from reality and escape reality. But the trouble is that that actually allows interference or energy which is not of the light to take over the vehicle. So when we allow ourselves, like it's like in your ego to allow yourself to have a good time, I suppose is the right word for it, that we also need to look at how that isn't necessarily the best place for our energy long term. And at some point, you know, you have to grow up and you can't always do that. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, yeah, some people, yeah.
And it's not a judgment on,
No,
you know.
no. It's interesting because there's a bit of, I went to a funeral today, and another person passed away this week that I know that has had a very, you know, their life has just been completely and you know, yeah, just so many people I know lately have passed over who've had lives that they've just completely deadened through the, you know, sex, drugs and rock and roll lifestyle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of George Michael as an example of, like, you listen to him singing and you go, what a gift.
Yeah.
And then how he's gone out is like an example of don't go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because it's a trap.
Yeah.
It's an ego trap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose just again ignoring the gifts that you've come into this world with, or that you've acquired through this world,
or overusing those gifts. So some people use drugs to, like, push the boundaries on how much they can do, or puts them into the creative vibe, right?
Yeah.
Or creativity vibe, because it does it allows the consciousness to actually reach, like, higher dimensions of creativity realms. But it's better to actually do that naturally,
Yeah.
through having worked on the self and having worked on your skills and having transcended your issues and worked on your emotions, than it is to actually access, like, those higher energies, because the consequence is the low energies that you have to transcend after the high energy. So you put yourself completely out of whack.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what to say about that, because I suppose it's just a bit close to home at the moment with just seeing it happen right in, you know, like a few people I know, like I said, that have just had opportunity that they you know, their lives could have been different.
Pity.
Anyway.
And, you know, we're not trying to talk about being perfect here. What we're trying to talk about is, like, things that we can catch ourselves on or doing. You know, we could be guilty of, like, having too much to drink and then going, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that and I'm only going to allow this because it's better for me, because I know what the consequences are. It's like cause and effect.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, you know, we need to understand as well that everybody is where they is on the right path, whether they're, you know, whether our judgment of their life is you know.
But these are points that we're trying to raise at the moment, where these are triggers. If you see and identify this in yourself and you want to do something about it, then come back to it.
Yeah.
We're not placing a complete judgment around the words that we're speaking of. What we're doing is we're actually just trying to pull apart what it means to be in that energy, and how that might not sit really perfectly with you being in the best level of balance in your life.
Yeah. Well, so having said that, I used to love a drink and a party, long hair, flick it around, you know. So
we've all been there and got the t-shirt.
Yeah, so, but I just yeah, and I would drink every day, like have a, not, I wouldn't get drunk, but I would drink every day. I'd have a glass of wine, or I'd have a spirit or something like that on a daily basis. And I got to the point, like even this time last year, where I was thinking, am I able to stop doing this? Am I able to actually break this habit? So I was asking myself that question, but I did. I just stopped. So.
And then when COVID hit, everybody hit the bottle.
Yeah.
Dear. Okay, so the next one that we're gonna talk about is a huge program, sabotage program, slave program, whatever you want to call it. It's guilt. I've seen people absolutely persecute themselves over guilt, and guilt manifests in many different ways of overcompensation in so many areas for the fact that the guilt is within them, or they feel bad for the choices that they've made. And so it's almost like they're plugging holes in reality, rather than actually just discussing it openly, how they feel with the so-called injured party, and actually showing them why they feel guilty and trying to actually resolve it. So it's especially Catholic guilt. It's almost like they're going to perpetuate the feelings of guilt until it's absolutely unbearable on the self to actually then they have to let go of it. Do you follow what I'm saying? So guilt is a little bit like grief. If you experience real guilt, it's heartbreaking.
It's kind of, it's a learnt behavior too. It's imposed on you as like me growing up as a Catholic. I think it's something that's kind of, it's the guilt and the shame that that you learn about, and you think that that's actually a not an honor, but it's kind of something that you need to be aware of, that that's kind of it's that cross that you need to bear to to follow a religious path or whatever it might be. Yeah.
We've all had situations where we've done not necessarily the right thing. I'll put it into paraphrases, but where we've then felt guilty because we've gone after something that we shouldn't have, or we've done something that we shouldn't have that has an impact on others.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to free yourself from your own feelings of guilt around your own personal choices. And sometimes, it was right for you to choose that path. You were actually a match, or some people say that having an affair, you got like 3% chance of it actually turning into a relationship that will last. But what if you are that 3% and you are actually contracted to break the rules and go beyond what your own social conditioning is, which is that you can't go there, and actually have to suck it up and go, yeah, I'm going to go down that path. So, you know, guilt can have many facets or edges to it, but at the end of the day, sometimes like it is in alignment with your soul's path, and you shouldn't actually feel guilty for what it is that your internal choices or your you know, the direction that you choose, because who's to say it isn't the right path for you? Because it is the right path for you.
And I suppose, like going back to what we were saying about it being, you know, it's a learnt kind of behavior when you're younger. And if you kind of if you're young enough to identify what you just said about not taking it on, then you can make those choices without the attachment of the guilt. So you can say, well, is this a choice? Is this a soul path choice, or is it just something that I want to do because I'm being selfish?
I think you actually have to know inside of yourself whether, you know, deeply know whether something's right for you or not right for you. You know. But guilt, especially Catholic guilt, I think actually comes from past lives. I've often seen with people, especially men, it's almost like they will beat themselves up religiously with Catholic guilt in order to substantiate, or like to, it's like they self-induced penance on some level, and it goes back through time into the times where the, you know, the monks used to literally do cat of nine tails and doing penance on themselves. So I've seen it in timelines too.
Well, the thing is, it's like, you know, we grow up to you know, to look for fault in yourself. Like, so that's why we, you know, one of the first sacraments you make is reconciliation, where you know, you go and confess your sins to the priest. So you're looking for something to kind of, well, what
I never had that.
Yeah, well, we like, what did I do wrong? Oh, hang on, I took a biscuit out of the biscuit tin without asking mum, you know. And so there'd be something stupid that you would come up with just so that you could make up a sin to go and confess. So just stupid stuff, really.
Oh, wow. Right.
Like, I remember my brother saying, Helen, I just make stuff up. So I just say, like, you know, I had 2 apples instead of 1 or whatever, because, you know, you can't, as kids, you know, like you just, but you grow up to actually feel like guilt and shame for you know, for wanting things. It could be just having an extra serve of dessert or something, and then you kind of,
that's hardcore.
Well, it's just that whole era of like our era, the slave codes we grew up with. Children should be seen and not heard. All that sort of stuff.
I wasn't in Catholic church, but I you know, we used to have to get up at 7 a.m. in boarding school on a Sunday to go to church, and I know I hated every minute of it. Anyway, okay, so we've got 2 more things to discuss on this very long live at the moment. So spells, entrapment, and the High Vibe Club. Okay, so this might go up against the people that do witchcraft and I don't know, you know, I don't know what goes on out there. I've never been somebody who would do an intention to receive some specific outcome. I've only ever seen one person when I was about 19 that did some sort of ritual spell thing and then literally manifested exactly what she wanted like the next minute. So I know that it does, I know that these things work, but it's like, if I was to say doing ritual magic there's a flip side to that consequence. It's like, if you want something because you're consciously trying to get it to come to you by force through a spell, that is going to be a consequence. You're going to not necessarily you're going to get a negative out of that positive. So it's not good to misuse your energy in any way through that. And I would also say entrapment is exactly the same thing. So some people will chase a person to, you know, entrap them, or they'll get into a relationship and they'll try to trap that person. That is only going to come off badly on you in the end. So we all have to be mindful about what it is that you know, we are way beyond this in how we think, in how our consciousness works, but this is like lower level programming or consciousness, where we try to get something out of something or someone, right, as a result. So, you know, one of the good ways to analyze your own intentions around what you do or what you choose to manifest or set up is actually place yourself forwards in time to have a conversation with your future self, if you did what that is.
Yeah.
So that's something to be mindful of. And now the High Vibe Club. Okay, life on planet Earth is not all about adrenaline buzzes and positivity and you know, living the most ultimate best life that you could possibly have. It's about living a good life, but not in those upper echelons of chasing the next buzz. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, living an authentic life.
Because again, this is some form of like delusionment. It's almost like, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
Look how amazing my life is.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of it, you're actually an adrenaline junkie. So you're addicted to the buzz.
We've been pulled right out of that lifestyle we have. And so it'll be like, again, it'll be interesting to see whether that actually fires back up again in a way. Like, you know, we'll still have, no doubt, you know, go on holidays and that sort of thing, but will we be partying?
But it needs to be more neutral. It needs to be more like level playing field. Maybe, you know, people in Africa deserve a holiday versus the people who've all had the money, you know. Like, I don't need to go anywhere. I'm happy where I am. I've had enough holidays in my life. Maybe it's somebody else's turn to receive that, right? So, you know, selflessly acting with what your choices are in the future, and not chasing the buzz, but just, you know, having a simplified life, and you know, being kind to those around you has more benefit to you in the long term than polluting the planet and going around everywhere and seeing everything. So and doing everything. And I know that when you're young, that's all you want to do, because you've got to go out and experience life. But as time goes on, you know, there aren't many 50-year-olds that haven't been through the rigorous massive points in their lives, you know, like, so being in the high buzz, high vibe club is not, you know, not everything is about love down here, but it is about balance. So creating as much balance as we can. Okay, so I think I have talked enough and you have talked enough today. Thank you so much, all you beautiful people, for stopping by and watching us talk tonight. It's now nighttime out there. We must have been on for ages. And if you're interested, if you're seeing this after the live, I'm Louise Winchester, the spiritual business mentor and founder of Sacred Space, and this is Helen, done, the salon mentor, and both of us work with people in both industries. Like I work in the spiritual industry, Helen works in the salon, hair, and beauty industry, and we mentor people in spiritual business and help them set up and establish businesses that are in alignment with what their soul contract is, and support them to do that. So if you get this, if you want to leave us a message and you're seeing this live sometime in the future, you can always message us here and I can connect you with Helen if you're interested, or connect with me on louisewinchester.com and check out what we do. And in addition to that, I just want to let people know that Sacred Space is open Monday to Friday at the moment. I don't know how long for, we shall just have to see. What else? I've done a digital consultancy page on my website, which has a lot of different services on setting up websites, because I love building websites and funnel pages and all of doing 3D digital graphic design and marketing. So check out the digital consultancy page on louisewinchester.com. For anybody else who's watching this live, we go live every week at, we've just changed the time on a Thursday from 3 till 4 p.m. And in the meantime, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to speak to you all today, and have a good week ahead. Bye.